Okay, then we'll get started. Opening statements, as I said, 2 minutes each, starting with Joshua, followed by Chanel, followed by Kim. And then once we get through those, I'll give the rest of them. All right, Joshua, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you very
Joshua,
much.
give me just a minute. I'm sorry,
Oh,
I'm
wait.
not finding my, I want my,
Timer.
my timer up there for you. And the app disappeared, and you can begin when you see the timer.
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Joshua Polacheck. I am one of the candidates for chair. I'm coming to you as someone who spent my entire life, my entire growing up in rural areas. My parents were in the Indian Health Service, and I went to reservation schools my entire life, including here in Arizona at White River Elementary. I saw firsthand what government dysfunction and ignoring the rural areas does to the day-to-day lives of people. And we as Democrats need to get back to our rural neighbors and present a solid plan for how Democrats in charge will make life better for folks in the rural areas. After university, I joined the Foreign Service. I served in places like Iraq, Pakistan, Lebanon, including some time in Afghanistan. And after the 2016 election, I realized I could not stay in federal service anymore. So I came back home and have been working in Democratic politics since 2018. And I am proud to have been one of your Democratic nominees for Arizona Corporation Commission. And I plan to bring to the Arizona Democratic Party a party that inside is stable, well-run, no drama, but externally, we fight for every single vote in every single corner of the state. I want to have a 15-county, 30 LD strategy that goes to the voters and proudly and unapologetically says, we are Democrats and here is how we are going to make your life better. Water, jobs, and schools. We know that our rural areas for too long have been ignored. We have to be unafraid to get on rural talk radio. We have to be unafraid to get physically in the places where people need to hear our message, whether that is a 4-H fair or whether that is on social media, having those fights. Thank you so much. See you on the 13th.
Like the music.
Chanel?
Good morning, Rare by Democrats. My name is Chanel Powe. I never thought that I would be running for this position, but I'm truly stepping up to meet this moment as someone who's been actively engaged and involved in the Arizona Democratic Party since 2010. I served as Sergeant at Arms on the Maricopa County Democratic Party Board. I was your 2016 party leader and elected official DNC delegate, and I served as the Arizona Democratic Party Black Caucus Secretary. I didn't choose this life chose me. I saw that there were people who were not engaged within our community, and I wanted to get out to help be a voice. I served as a former elected school board member and on the board of directors for the Arizona School Boards Association, which truly got me out and across our state to visit places like Marana, places like Santan Valley, places like the Salt River community. So my vision and goal for rural community is that, first of all, why did you feel left out in the first place? I want to be able to have a physical presence. I want to be able to listen to understand the barriers it is that you face in regards to having lack of access to mailboxes. Why are we not advocating for the Parcel Act to make sure that mailboxes are available so that voting by ballot or vote by mail is made much more simplistic? I also would like to see us be able to identify other Democrats who live in these rural areas. I do have a Valley Vision platform that I recently released for everyone to view this week so you can understand how I want to help chart a path forward. If elected, I will call a special meeting within the first 50 days so that we can make some bylaw amendments and be able to unify the party by having some courageous conversations. There's a lot that state committee members want to discuss, and I feel like everybody's voice should be heard. That's why I sent out a survey to all SEMs. Thank you.
Thank you, Chanel. Kim, followed by Julie.
Thank you all. Thank you for having us here. I've been involved with Arizona politics since the lead up to the 2016 election. Before that, I was always involved nationally. I've been a lifelong supporter of Emily's list and Arizona list. And I have raised a lot of money for a lot of candidates over the years. I've always advocated for Democratic pro-choice women for office, especially when I got involved locally here in Arizona. I've had the privilege of serving as your first vice chair for 6 months and now as acting chair. In that time, I've lived through the steepest part of the leadership learning curve more than once. None of us are ever really prepared completely for stepping into this role, but the relationships I've built across the party and the knowledge I've gained through our challenges meant that I could hit the ground running. In just weeks, we've approved a budget, paid overdue bills. We just finished out the highest fundraising month of the year. We're at over $150,000 in pledges for the Hall of Fame dinner on the 12th. Hope to see you all there. We put stopgap processes in place to support van help for all of our PCs and LDs in counties. We've assisted with 2 Ansari town halls with texting. We're doing phone banking for Adelita Grijalva for CD7. We put a lot of work into making sure that we have election integrity on the 13th for our votes in our election. And I would love to be considered to have the honor to continue in this role. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Julie, followed by Shawnte.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for giving up your Saturday morning to come listen to us again. I think this is great that we get a chance to know all the candidates. It's different than we've done in the past, and I love the change. And that's part of why I'm running, is I want to see some more change. I think we need to come out of the box on the 14th, and we need to be the new Democratic Party. We need to be open to discussion with every member of the party. We need to do a lot of listening. And we need to re-engage those Democrats that we've lost, the ones that are disappointed, disenfranchised, and disengaged. They've left for a variety of reasons. Some of it is they feel like at the top things aren't going the way they want. Sometimes it's just that nobody ever knocked their door or cared to lift them up and encourage them. And so I think those are things we can really change. Not just in rural areas, but in suburban and urban areas as well. I've got experience in all 3 kind of organizing. I think they're all very different. Every rural area is very different. Suburban areas are very different. So we need to really get to know each area and spend time there. And to get all that work accomplished, we're going to have to do a lot of fundraising. So I do have a lot of experience in fundraising. I raised over $250,000 in a single year for a local nonprofit C4, some of the hardest money to raise. But I think our job is just to get out there, get talking to everybody, get them excited about the fact that they can get re-involved, that there will be a place for them, and that the work that they do will be valued and valuable. So thank you for your morning.
Thank you, Julie. Shawnte, followed by Charlene.
Good afternoon, Democrats. I'm Shawnte Rothschild. My pronouns are she, they. I am happy to be here and honored to be one of the candidates running for Arizona Democratic Party. Yes, I'm running, but we here are already doing the work. So with that, a little bit about my background. Mother of 3, grandmother, born and raised here in Arizona, knocked doors in every part of the state due to my work with many organizations, advocacy, professional, you name it. I've started multiple organizations. I currently manage a book of business in the commercial aspect of the the world. With that, working on implementations from coding aspects, working with high dollar accounts, being responsible for bringing in multi-million dollar accounts and maintaining those relationships. And I say all of that, one, because our organization, yes, we are a family. Yes, we are a party, but ultimately we are a business and have to be run effectively. But just like any business, it requires all of us. It requires understanding that not everything is the same. It requires efficiency. It requires collaboration. It requires knowing that we can't do this work alone. And so, as I said, I've lived here my entire life, knock doors in every part of the state. But again, knowing I as an individual don't have the answer. We as a party are already doing great work. We're not broken. We're filled with amazing people. We just need to tweak some things. As my other colleagues or candidates have said here, we've lost some people and we've done the work and we will continue to do the work. And that requires conversations at every level. We have amazing LD chairs, we have amazing PCs, we have amazing state committee members. And with that, again, collectively coming together to get it done is why I am running for Arizona State Chair.
Thank you, Shawnte. And last but certainly not least, Charlene.
Thank you, Holly. I'm Charlene Fernandez, and I have been fighting for rural communities all of my life. I was born in rural Arizona and actually have never left. I raised my children here. My grandchildren are being raised here. Rural roots run deep for me. I fight for rural public education, and in the way that I did that, I served on one of the oldest high school districts in the state of Arizona, Yuma Union High School District, home of the Yuma High School criminals. I was there for 8 years, served as the board president, and I think that's what got me on my way to continue serving at the Arizona legislature. I served for 8 years there and 2 years as a minority leader. After that, I resigned in my last session to accept a position with the White House. It was the presidential appointment as rural development state director for the USDA. So I think my work preceded that appointment. They saw what I was doing. They knew that I knew rural. And it afforded me that opportunity to travel all over Arizona and witness what is happening in our rural areas. There's areas that don't have clean drinking water. There's areas that need the economy built up, and that's what we were doing. And we will continue to do that work. When I am the chair of the Arizona Democratic Party, I'm going to make sure that we send more Democrats to Congress to fight what is going on there. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you all. So the first question has to do with your vision for rural support. So please include in your answer, and you'll have 3 minutes each to answer this question, your specific plan for delivering support to rural communities, and how will people in those areas be able to measure the success? And we'll start with Julie.
All right. Well, rural is my wheelhouse. I love rural. There's a lot of things I think will help with rural organizing. I think empowering our precinct committee people and state committee members. We've talked about, having like a weekly call where they can get on and see what's happening. I like weekly because it's often enough that if you skip one, you're not too worried about it. So the pressure isn't on that you have to be there every week. But anytime that you want to catch up and get ideas from other people, you can join. It helps people feel less isolated because some of our rural areas, I don't know if you've spent much time in, St. John's or Springerville or, Sierra Vista, but you're very isolated. And so it helps to feel connected to the rest of the state. So I think that's really important. I think being year round, I think everybody's agreeing on that being year round in rural areas, not just parachuting in for pre-election months and with people from out of state. You have to, get locals involved. That's the only way to really get that outreach and make it be effective. And you also have to be sensitive to the needs of the community on different levels, because that's how you build that feeling of community where people will turn out. In Cottonwood, we did a project called the Linda Project, where we helped an elderly woman who had her life savings stolen in a scam and was going homeless. The community came together. We had a rummage sale, we got her stabilized, everybody did different things. But out of that, several volunteers came to us and keep coming back, keep coming back. And so because now they believe in us. So there's a lot of different ways to organize in rural areas, but to me, becoming part of the community and empowering the people that live there is really what matters. So I
How
feel
would
like
you, Julie, how would you, what measures would you
of the measure.
implement?
And honestly, I, already done that here in Cottonwood. The increase in registrations, the increase in voter turnout, and participation in civic events. People turning out for city council meetings and school board meetings and having their voices heard. When you see those increases in activity and the increase in voting, we had our turnout numbers were phenomenal in Yavapai County. And that's because in each area, Prescott, Sedona, the rest of the Verde Valley, there's a lot of active community work going on year round. And when people feel connected and empowered, they turn out and vote. So I think turnout's the biggest indicator.
Great, thank you. Kim, you're next, followed by Joshua. And please address how ADP would be delivering support and measures. You're muted, Kim.
Hi. For me, it always starts with partnering with our LDs and our counties that are involved in the areas. I've worked with a lot of them over these past several months, and they are critical to my understanding of what each rural area needs. We could work with the cross-county comms team at ADP to elevate and amplify the work that they're already doing across their counties. For organizing and recruitment, we could partner with local Dems. Mr. Jay Ruby is very close to becoming the first Democrat elected to the Prescott City Council. And I'm very sorry that he has to go through the same race twice, but he has already indicated that he would love to teach and help support. He has a training program that he'd like to offer for people who want to run in non-competitive districts as a clean cohort. I think that's something that could definitely ADP could assist with. I also think that we can find other Dems, and if they're not local, we can import them from other parts of Arizona, because one of the priorities is organizing and recruitment, and that only happens from these kinds of events. I also think that something that Arizona ADP can raise money for is not organizers everywhere all the time. We don't have the bandwidth for that at this moment, I don't think. But we could hire a couple of organizers, at least one of them bilingual, fluent in Spanish, and they could spend some time each month in each of our rural areas and offer some assistance with the recruiting and the training of PCs and volunteers. Those are my thoughts.
How about the measures for success? How would the
Well,
people know
sure.
you've been successful?
Well, with the PCs and the volunteers, it's going to be really easy because you'll know how many you have now, and you'll know all along the way if you have more. And we would work with the LDs and the counties to set some metrics. But I also know from talking to people in other rural areas that it can take some work to develop those relationships. And some of these areas are so red that we don't go out and meet people first as Democrats. We go out and meet them first as people. And so recruiting can take some time and some relationship building, but those are metrics we can offer with the comms part of it. Those are easy to track as well because you can see how many followers you have, how many retweets, for example. Those are some of the ideas. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Joshua, followed by Shawnte. You're muted, Joshua.
This is one of the most critical issues. The Democratic Party cannot and must not write off huge swaths of the country just because there are a lot of people in the party that are, let's be frank, uncomfortable working in these rural areas. We know that there are more Democrats in the rural areas than are registered, more Democrats in these rural areas that are voting. There is no question that in Pinell County, in Cochise County, that the difference between our margin of loss and the number of Democrats who do not feel that they are represented and that they have somebody that they trust that shares their values and is going to fight for them is larger than the margin that we lost by. So I don't want to hear about red areas because there are no red areas. Arizona, only 57% of people that are eligible to vote in the last election voted. In the rural areas, it's lower than 50% in some counties. The other half of the people that didn't vote are more likely our voters, but they don't see us. They don't see the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, especially the Arizona Democratic Party, has lost the bond of trust between us and rural voters. We need to go out there, be present physically. We need to be present in the narratively, and we need to be giving a positive vision. We can't just go out there and say, look, the Republicans are awful. Look at all the things that they've done. We tried that in Mojave County for the Corporation Commission race last cycle. There were thousands of people protesting Unisource's 15% pre-summer rate increase. Yet the Republicans still got 80% of the ACC vote in Mojave County. That's because we as Democrats need to recognize that our brand needs to be specific for each area that we're going into. I think about Diane Abernathy in Cochise County, who represented Cochise from 1998 to 2008. Even as Democrats were losing across the state, as we were getting wiped out. And she had that connection with the community. We know that rural areas, and as a retired union brother myself, we know rural areas have a stronger labor presence than in urban areas as a percentage of people. Yet we are afraid to be a pro-union party. What is wrong with us as Democrats? And so our measure of change as an Arizona Democratic Party, we need to get the resources. You know what you need. We need to get you those resources. So we need to see better registration numbers. We need to see better turnout numbers, and we need to see a change on this in all the ways that people communicate, whether it's rural talk radio, whether it's social media, where we are changing the perception of the Democratic Party in those rural areas. Does that answer your question, Holly?
That answers the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's be proud to be Democrats.
Shawnte, followed by Charlene.
And so the beauty of not going first is you get to hear some wonderful ideas and plans. And so it's hard not to echo some of those things, especially because they're things that I believe in and believe that we should implement. So growing up in Maricopa County and then moving to Pinell County and then also being a leader in LD 16, I know that there are vast differences in our counties and our areas and our LDs and our precincts. And so one size doesn't fit all. One thing that we cannot do that has been mentioned is we can't, and what we did in the last election is bring in people from out of state, out of different counties that have no idea what is going on in the particular rural areas. And so thinking about our LDs and our county chairs who already have a cross-county plan in place that they've been implementing and working for some time, going back to those in the community, the leaders already know what needs to be done. And so from an ADP perspective, for me, it's important that we continue to support those local efforts. If they need more funding, let's do that. If they need the collaboration and support of VAN and all of those things, we need to do that. But it's not a one size fit all for rural or any counties. I was door knocking last week, and again, people opening the door in Eloy and Florence and different things are saying, Democrats, great. I don't feel like I belong. Listening to their concerns about the local jobs and the schools and different things, all of that varied from the conversations that we had week before in Maricopa. So again, working with our local leadership to not only, well, we lecture a lot, I'll be honest, as Democrats. So more so listening first, not lecturing, and then adding aid to what the particular leadership, counties, chairs, and things are asking for. And again, empowering those local solutions. ADP has access to great resources, but we are not the end all be all. And so supporting what is already going on, answering the needs of our rural communities, being consistent, as my fellow Vice Chair Joshua mentioned, showing up in whatever means are necessary, whether it's virtual, whether it's important, whether it's virtual or in person, knocking doors, being available, doing so at times that are conducive for our rural teams. Trust and transparency comes from showing up, being consistent, and listening. Again, leading it isn't always from the front. It is sometimes in parallel or even from behind. And then in answer to your question about measurement, we just heard it. It is in voter registration. It is in getting more Democrats from rural areas to step up. It is actually people answering more doors. When the community is more comfortable, they're more engaged. They show up at local events. They volunteer. They show up at our LD meetings. They show up at our school board meetings. So in short, looking at our voter engagement, looking at our voter registration, looking at those who are interested in running for office, and just the conversations that we're having today. So last but not least, I would say the feedback loop is important, offering it at various stages, whether it's electronic, using social media, forums like this, or town halls.
Thank you, Shawnte. And Charlene, you're next, and
Thank
followed
you.
by Chanel.
Thank you, Holly. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about, again, what I did in the past. As the minority leader at the Arizona State Legislature, I encourage our caucus to go on the road. You know, everything is centered in Maricopa, where people in Maricopa would be able to see what was going on with the budget. They even saw it live on, in action. So we took our budget on the road and we went to communities that had never seen legislators from other areas. So that was hugely popular. And I also think that it was a reason we went from 25 members to 29 members, because it just generated more interest in us. Also, as a USDA director, I visited communities, rural communities all over Arizona, and my goal was to listen. I didn't go out and tell them what we had. I listened to hear what they needed. But for ADP, I would incorporate the same thing. But first, I want to make sure that each of our LDs and our county offices their financial stability is secure, whatever that looks like. It may be very minimal and it may be more than we can handle, but to help our offices be financially stable and secure. I want to make sure we bring in tribal nations. It's critical that in these rural areas that the tribal nations are also considered in every bit of work that we do. It's very important that we increase the number of PCs, and that's so measurable in itself. But remember, our PCs are our base. They are the foundation of this party. I would like to bring trainings to our rural areas. I'd like to offer that and bring people out to talk with them and offer them advice on how they did it, maybe in other areas throughout Arizona. Again, measurements, you have to set clear goals, what you want to measure. Is it the number of engagements? We have to make sure that we're attending the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotaries, all those groups in rural areas that are so important, that draw everyone. Again, voter registration is critical. That would be one of the first things I would want to measure, and that would measure the success in those areas. So thank you.
Thank you. And Chanel, again, last but not at all the least. Go for it.
Yeah, so I recently took a trip out to Yuma, Arizona, and met with state committee members, PCs, and had an opportunity to listen to some of the challenges it is that they face and opportunities that we have before us. I like to lead with listening, so I would love to organize a town hall and develop a survey from that town hall to measure individuals' levels of engagement, also get an understanding of what are their skills and talents that they can offer. In addition to that, I would love to make sure that we are identifying young people so that we are making sure that the party is intergenerational and building a bench of leaders prepared to lead. It's also, again, critically important to listen, to understand what are the needs that's needed in rural Arizona, but how do we be able to amplify that? And one of the ideas I have is creating a true blue storytelling social media campaign where we got real people living in rural Arizona who are able to share their stories on social media. This kind of ties in to trying to amplify and raise the profile of rural Arizonans is by being able to do some online fundraising and being able to share some of those personal stories. I talked earlier about advocating for like the Parcel Act, which we know that many of our rural Arizonans and some of those on tribal nations don't have access to a mailbox. What can we do to coalition build? What organizations that are coming out to rural Arizona? Coalition building is so extremely important. Outreach. We need to be everywhere. We need to be at the Tamale Festival. We need to be at the Corn Festival, meeting members of the community where they're at. There is a great opportunity to fill within our state 5,000 PCs. Where are we at? How are we able to identify those individuals? And when we're talking about being able to like measure these goals, we want to measure the participation that comes to these town halls. We want to be able to take measurements from the surveys that we send out to those participants, PCs, and state committee members. And we want to be able to listen to what plans it is that they have, and then how we can implement solutions. I'm a very resourceful person with a national network. I want to be able to leverage my national network to be able to bring in trainings for edification of our leadership, new and different strategies to be able to increase our voter turnout. And again, also have a physical presence and be active and available, building those strong relationships and more partnerships with our elected officials, our Democratic elected officials in that area, so we can cross promote, amplify, and register more Dems.
Thank you. So the next question, we're going to turn to fundraising. And one of the, Yoli raised $3 million in her 2 years. And one of the things she did was to provide grants to the counties. And it was the first time, at least in Yavapai County, that we actually had money to hire a organizer. And we do have as an example, we do have a huge voter turnout. It's not necessarily all Democratic, but we have a huge voter turnout here. But we were able to help to bridge that through the money that was given to us by the grants. So in 2026, how are you going to bring in, how much money do you think we need, and how are you going to bring in those dollars? And we're going to start with Charlene, followed by Chanel.
Thank you, Holly. The exact amount, I don't know. You have to remember, I'm from the outside looking in right now, but I did ask the treasurer if he could give me a roundabout figure of what we need to catch up. We're 9 months behind here. 9 months. Any way you look at it, real excited about the Hall of Fame dinner and the fundraising that's going on right now. But then what happened between January and right now? So it looked like anywhere from 200,000 to 250,000 a month that we would have to raise in order to catch up. And so that would be my goal, is to break that down by week. And fundraising, by the way, Holly and everyone listening, is not on the head of one person. I am a firm believer in teamwork, that it's everybody that fundraises. If someone has a bad week and can't fundraise, then somebody needs to jump right in and have their back. I want to make sure that someone has my back and I will have someone else's back. So fundraising would be ongoing. It wouldn't stop because one person couldn't do it. So I hope that answered the question. I do think we have to start fundraising on day one. And I said, it's teamwork, that we all need to build those relationships and start fundraising. And it is going to be about $250,000 a month to catch up. That doesn't talk about having more than we had. It's to catch up. Thank you.
And who is the we? that
That would
you-
be the vice chair, the executive board, and the executive council. That would be the we. That's building a team.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Chanel, followed by Joshua.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, fundraising is extremely critical. We're almost like in a deficit and we need to be aggressive. And some of the measures that I would like to take in terms of us fundraising is making it a shared responsibility. It is a shared responsibility. But as chair, some of the things that I would like to do is to be able to prioritize rebuilding those relationships with our donors, and not just our top donors, our unions, people who've always had our back and have always stood with us. This also means our monthly sustained donors. We can increase that. We can increase that by doubling down on our democratic values and by rebranding the party as a new party where all Democrats feel like they belong. But there's also opportunity to have new industry donors, donors who may not have donated to the party in the past, but may have donated to candidates, but really feel a sense of urgency in this moment to really want to help build up the Arizona Democratic Party. I also want to be able to leverage local and national relationships and have my face in a place. Be where the convenings are, go where the money is. Tell the whole and complete Arizona story that includes rural right there in the center. You know, rural is being brought up in a lot of conversations and a lot of various organizations that I belong to, but really being able to tap into those best practices and tailor what's needed to be able to not only increase our capacity, but give us the necessary resources it is that we need. Another thing that I would like to do in terms of fundraising is to be able to, again, have some online fundraising. Last year, I worked with a women's equality organization, and it was my goal to get out the vote and increase participation across our state. And we were able to do so by being able to share our personal stories on Zoom. Arizona is a state that's always going to be it's always at play, and people have a vested interest. It's truly about identifying them, leaning into my interpersonal skills and networks to be able to amplify those messages so that we can have the resources it is not only to maintain, but put some funding into programming and the other positions and roles that we immediately need to hire for. Thank you.
Thank you. Joshua, followed by Julie.
Thank you. The Arizona Democratic Party is in a financial crisis. I want to give a big shout out to Acting Chair Kim Khoury for stabilizing the party. We're almost at break even now, thanks to her efforts. But break even right now is in a pretty dire situation. If we're going to be a top 3 swing state, we need to start acting like it. We need to be raising $3 to $5 million, not a cycle, but $3 to $5 million a year. We need to have a fully professionalized fundraising operation, and that's not just on the chair. That means that we have a fully professionalized fundraising team that focuses on building the relationships with our trustees, our institutional donors. That includes our union family, the tribal nations, as well as large advocacy groups like Reproductive Freedom for All and other large member-based organizations. Every time I heard that there's this financial crisis going on, and we heard it with the Arizona Democratic Party, I hear it with the DNC, and then I see Reproductive Freedom for All, one of the organizations I'm deeply involved in. We are having our best financial year ever. We have almost double the amount we've ever had in history. And that is because we are presenting a clear plan to people, small donors, medium-sized donors, and large institutional donors. People want something that they can get behind. And if the Arizona Democratic Party puts together that plan, including, in my mind, the need to have a rural fund, not a rural fund where, Mojave has to beg for $3,000 or $5,000. I'm talking about a 6 to 7 figure annual fund that we can use to invest in our rural counties. And so that when you need something, you know that that money is going to be there from the ADP. And that also includes having to do joint fundraisers. So it's not always the ADP, but we are building the capacity in the rural areas at the LD and the county level with our donors and with your volunteers and staff to be able to raise that money on your own. I want to start having, 60-40, where y'all get the 60% fundraisers, or even 70-30 fundraisers to go along with the central rural fund. So we need to have a three-pronged stool. That means building the relationships with our trustees, the unions, tribal nations, and other large donors, building a national platform. If the Arizona Democratic Party shows the country that we are going to fight for every single vote in every single place in this state, the money is going to come in. And so that's the small dollar donors. And then finally, there is one thing that the chair needs to do, and that disproportionately falls on the chair, is doing call time. I've got a very recent experience. I spent almost 1,500 hours doing call time during my campaign, raised a record amount of money for the Corporation Commission, and I commit to doing 4 to 6 hours every day, grinding away at that call time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Julie, followed by Shawnte.
Hi. Yeah, let's see. I think just setting a budget, is it's good to have goals, but what you do with it really matters. I think Mondani in New York and AOC can show you that it's not about only fundraising. It's about having programs that work, that connect with people, that get them involved. And making that dollar go further that way. So yeah, we are behind in our traditional fundraising, but I really feel like we can overcome that by doing that on the ground work, that grassroots organizing that really matters, and supporting programs in maybe a different way than we have in the past, rather than just hiring from the top down, investing from the bottom up, investing on local civic engagement, courses with people, trainings on, not just, hey, go have a coffee, meet people at the library, but really explain, how do you reach out to people? How do you get them to respond? What kinds of things should you be talking about when you get them in the room? Practice sessions, chances to network with your, other organizers throughout your area. I think there's a lot of programs we can bring on that'll make those dollars stretch a lot further. And we're going to need to do that this year because, like Charlene said, we are way behind on getting that, money in where we normally would. So we're going to have to get creative. And building on what, Joshua said, connecting to those unions, the tribal nations. Been doing a lot of work on different tribal nations lately, and it's it takes a long time to build those relationships and that trust. But once you get it, then it's really fun and exciting to see the progress as it comes along. So lots of opportunities for us. I agree on call time. I spent years doing phone sales for a very unique product that I was an expert in, it's my sort of my claim to fame or whatever. It cost $1,000 a quart. Most people needed 5 to 8 quarts, and I could not guarantee it worked, but I, was top salesperson because I would connect with people. I cared about the outcome, and people can tell when you genuinely care and when you don't. If you're just trying to get them to vote for you and you really aren't concerned about their lives, they know. But when you really care about their outcome, it helps a lot. So I'll give you back the last 30 seconds.
Oh, thank you, Julie. Shawnte, followed by Kim.
Thank you. Again, business. So in business, I learned that people invest where they feel heard, where they see results. As a sales and service leader in a commercial industry, I work a lot where the success of projects are dependent upon convincing someone, not only convincing them, but proving to them that you care, that you hear them, that you're invested in a successful joint outcome. And I see our party as no different. We need to build solutions that meet individuals' priorities. Again, we talked about people not seeing themselves any longer in the party. So again, by addressing that, we will also address some of our fundraising challenges. again, shout out, as Joshua mentioned, to our interim chair, Kim Khoury, and our current board for the work that they have done in getting us to a better place, but the work still needs to be done. Also, just from a nonprofit leadership perspective, as a joint founder of several organizations, I've had to make tough decisions and stay agile and moving forward. The fundraising plan, things change, but you have to adapt, and you adapt because you have a plan, not only for the ability to be able to sustain your current finances, operational costs, and things like that, which we can do through some of those large donors, those standing investments and donations, but also going after some of the smaller donations, some of the reoccurring donors as well, but some of those new donors. And we do that again by establishing those relationships. Julie talks a lot about the lemon bars. Love lemon bars, Julie, most definitely. And so for those that maybe don't like lemon bars, there are other things that they like or that they want to get involved with. I believe Julie also mentioned programming. So again, helping people to understand their role in the party. When people are invested, they give. Let's keep in mind also that we have an amazing staff already at ADP, our deputy finance director. We have our treasurer, we have the chair, we have the other board members that are doing the fundraising. So it's not just on the chair alone. Call time is obviously important, and as a chair, I would be doing that. But the work will continue, and it is not, again, as Charlene mentioned, just on one person. So having something in place, being creative, identifying people, bringing them on board, and ensuring when those funds come in that they're allocated to help Democrats get elected, not only in our rural spaces, but again, in our indigenous communities, in our affinity group, working with the caucuses, and just working to bring the people back to the party because they will aid us in continuing to grow. So in short, fundraising is something that has to be done on a regular basis. We have to be creative. We have to be responsible in how we allocate those funds, but we also need to make it something that is fun and is something that is maintainable. So with that, relying on our expertise and our continued drive to raise funds for the party.
Thank you, Shawnte. Kim, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, fundraising. So the Arizona Democratic Party under Yolanda and her team actually raised close to $8 million. And she did leave us with a nice cushion, which we have blown through probably 2/3 of that in 7 months. The fundraising efforts that we're engaged in now have had a lot to do with rebuilding credibility with a number of our donors. I have conversations all the time with people who read the news in the first part of the cycle. They want to know if the doors are going to blow off the building. Are we sane? Are we credible? Are we moving forward? Building donor relationships is a full-time effort, and I would expect that if I were fortunate enough to be given the honor to continue, that I would be having a lot of very long conversations. Inspiring donors to want to give starts first with this Hall of Fame event. Because a lot of people invested in this, it's going to signal to the larger community that people are seeing credibility, they are seeing stability. All of our statewide electeds have consented and agreed to come and join us in one way or another. And that also is going to signal to our donor community that we are all rowing in the same direction. For ADP, we need to have a plan. We need to plan on being able to raise somewhere between $6 and $10 million. Operations at ADP for a full staff is extremely expensive. And so I can't tell you that I've raised $6 million before, but I can tell you the plan to continue with call time, to do it 5 or 6 hours a day, to stand up a finance team that's led by a seasoned, experienced professional with excellent networks. That person's going to bring in not only the money for their own salary, but for everyone else's. And then we can start looking at bringing more people back on. we need to be raising money for our counties as well. There's money in the budget right now for county mobilization, but we need much more. I would look to the counties to let us know how they want that money to be spent by submitting requests for grants or whatever it is, just so that we understand how each area prioritizes their needs. And we need to have specific parts of a plan that we can use to inspire different voters or donors. Some of them may want to give to the rural counties, some of them may want to give to voter reg, etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I have just a clarification for you. Are you saying that you would, as chair, you would hire a professional fundraiser or that you have hired?
No, in this interim period, I have not hired anyone. I just wanted to stabilize operations, pay all the overdue bills, plug the hole in the roof, replace the air conditioner that was broken and stuff like that. But the first person we need to bring on is a seasoned finance director, because that person, while I'm doing call time, that person is standing up a number of other programs to address fundraising on a lot of different
Okay,
levels.
thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, next question, we're going to change topics again. And we want to know, what is your strategy for collaborating with Navajo County and the Copper State Victory Campaign that does not overlap with their fundraising and GOTV initiatives and unifies the party? So, multi-part question. We're going to start with you, Kim. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay, so collaborate with Copper State, not overlap, and what
And
was the last-
unifies the party.
unifies. Okay. I haven't given up on getting them to come back. Please don't let them know that. No, I'm just kidding. What I believe we need to do is just to maximize our efforts, become as efficient and steady and reliable as possible. And then there will need to be a collaboration if in fact they do intend to continue as they are. I believe that we need to work with them, and I mean closely work with them, because whatever they are doing, what they won't be doing is party building for the Arizona Democratic Party. We still have a lot that we need to do in order to be both autonomous and interdependent. And so I would imagine that they would very much like to have some sort of a working group or a committee that has some representation from the state party to figure out what are the lanes, what are the details, who's going to do what. I'll give you an example. I had a conversation with Elsa, who's the outgoing executive director of the ADLCC, which is not exactly the same as the coordinated, but it is also another project of the party. And we talked about how could we work together in the areas that they are targeting to flip a seat. What can we do in terms of party building, voter registration, organizing, voter turnout, to maximize our efforts and our success with, in fact, flipping seats? Because we all know that we've targeted places and we weren't successful in many cases. And finally, to your question about unification, that is not as easy as it sounds, in my opinion. I think that part of that is giving people hope for what we can accomplish together, having specific plans that we've gained consensus on, and we've gotten feedback from the major stakeholder groups. We've talked with the board, we've shared it with the executive committee, we've shared it with the county chairs and the LD chairs. They're not going to agree on everything. No one ever does, but I think that the process of getting consensus will cause people to want to be more invested in the programs and the outcomes. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. Charlene, followed by Shawnte.
Thank you, Holly, for that question. Before I get started on this one, which is a biggie, I just wanted to clarify on my last one. I gave you my style of fundraising teamwork, but I wanted to assure you that I do know how to fundraise. As a minority leader, I had to fundraise to make sure that my other caucus members would have money for their races, but to increase the number of caucus members. So I raised over $1 million for ADLCC. At the same time, my 8 years as a legislator, I was raising money for my own campaign. Those were dialing, talking to people, one-on-one calls and coffees, but I was also sent all over the country to raise money for the legislature. It was very important that we get that 30th vote and at least, or 31, and become the majority at the Arizona State Legislature. It didn't happen, but we maintained our 29 until I left. The strategy for collaboration with Copper State and no overlap, it's all about building trust. We have to build trust again to make sure that the work continues or that we bring them back. And I'm not going to be shy about that. I would want them back with our party and at the table with us. It's important, if we don't want to have overlap, we have to communicate. And how do you communicate? You have to bring people that they're also on your board and you're on their board. It's about communication. It's about rebuilding that trust. And I truly believe that this would unify our party. It's going to take all of us. It's not just one that will be able to do this, but it's going to take all of us to make sure that we get back to where we were before, when it was working really well. Thank you.
Thank you. Shawnte, followed by Chanel.
Thank you. I believe that we as ADP are here to build power for voters, again, making sure that Democrats are elected up and down the ballot. Our statewide electeds, we know, are important, but they are themselves are not the party. Collectively, we are the party. We're a part, right? It's a partnership, not a hierarchy. And so by being strong, by being transparent, by creating that relationship, many of the leaders here on the call have said, we want them back. They are a very important part, and we are here to support them. But again, we are one party. And so building trust, again, having that open dialogue, regular meetings, it takes a while to build trust. You build trust through transparency, finding out what their goals are, how we can assist them, as well as what we as a party need as well. It has been said in speaking with people that sometimes people don't feel seen, not only as voters at doors, but as far as us as the party as well. And so keeping in mind that we are here to support our Democrats, which include our statewide electeds, but we as members of the party are important as well. Our voice is important as well. And so coming to the table, not asking them, but inviting them in a way where the statewide electeds feel heard, finding out what their needs are, and ensuring that we can support them and they can support us. So in short, transparency, being welcoming, supporting them in their efforts, letting them know how they can support us in our efforts, whether it's fundraising, whether it's showing up and speaking about Gaza, Israel, whether it's talking about unions. It's being that united group, not just as a front, but as an actual team and partnership.
All right, thank you. There was a question in the chat on what is Copper State? And Copper State is the transfer of money from the party, from the Arizona Democratic Party to Navajo County for the 3 statewide electeds who are going to be running for re-election in 2026, as well as the ADLCC, which is the organization that raises money for state legislative candidates, otherwise known as the Coordinated Campaign in the past. And it is now sitting with Navajo County versus with the Arizona Democratic Party. Okay, Chanel, followed by Julie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important that we extend an olive branch to the 5 electeds and work to try to come to a consensus. But I would also like to develop a traits of a candidate form for state committee members and PCs to complete so that we can understand and identify what is it do we consider a Democratic candidate and how are we able to hold them accountable? We also need to think about rebuilding a relationship with the thousands of voters who did not vote Democratic last year who did. Those relationships are equally important to the party. It's very, very important that we go back out to these communities to rebuild, re-engage, and re-register. That includes inactive Democrats. That includes those who typically would have voted for a Democratic at the top of the ticket but refused to. I would like to marry my plan, Valley Vision, with what they're doing to be in support and possibly be able to fill in the gaps that they are missing. There are a ton of voters who feel alienated by the party. That's why it's critically important that we have their voices heard. And I would like to have some of these voices heard by creating democracy dialogues. Democracy dialogues would be a place for state committee members, PCs, and those who are interested in supporting democratic values. So, one, we can be able to listen to how policies impact communities differently under our democratic umbrella, and two, be able to come to a consensus after we recommit to our shared values. I also saw something in the chat mention, what are we going to do about bilingual? We should be having bilingual phone banks. We should be having bilingual messaging. What I hear a lot from the Spanish speaking community is that a lot of literature that's aimed at them is just sent from English, just translated into Spanish when it needs to be translated into their own language, and it needs to sound like it's coming from them. Look, we all want to see our 5 electeds win their elections, but there has to be a relationship that is respected in terms of the ADP serving its members and electeds wanting to win their elections. I believe that we can come in and fill in the gaps that they are missing to regain and re-energize our base to feel included after we recommit to our democratic values and hopefully be able to adopt a 2026 platform in November. If elected, that is one of the goals it is that I have. But reuniting the party includes the electeds, but we cannot forget about our base who votes for us year after year.
Thank you, Chanel. Julie, followed by Joshua.
Hi. Yeah, the Copper State Fund, was formed when the statewide electeds got very concerned about what was happening within the party. So I think it is really important to do do an excellent job. And honestly, I feel confident that anybody, that's here running today will be able to rebuild the party in a way that will reconnect that relationship. I don't see anybody here, that's going to create more division. I don't think there's any chance of those funds coming back for this election cycle because it would be too chaotic. They've got to, keep rolling in the direction they're going. But I do think this brings an opportunity. There are certain things we can and can't do when working with candidates that, there's certain limitations when we are, completely enmeshed with the candidates that are removed right now because we're going to function simply as a party, not as a campaign. And so I think this is an opportunity, and I won't pretend to be the expert. I think we have experts we can lean on. I think, Jim Barton would advise us. I think we can look at places to get the best information. But I think we have some opportunities to build the party in a way that we wouldn't be able to if we were not just connected but also distracted by the electeds campaign. I think that the party cannot succeed without the electeds, and I think the electeds cannot succeed without the party. So we do have to work closely. We do have to find where we can coordinate and make things work together. We need to build each other up. We need to support each other. I think Miss Afoy is the chair for Navajo County and in charge of the Copper State Fund. She's one of the most creative, smartest people I've ever met. So I have a lot of confidence that money is in good hands and will be used wisely. So I think we need to use this as an opportunity to take a breath and maybe build our structure in a way that's very strong so that, in 28 when all the chips are on the line. We come out better than we ever could have imagined. And real quick, I'm just going to say, I have found this true in my life multiple times, and I think it's true here. Every time something really terrible and devastating has happened in my life, some really awesome, beautiful things have come out of it that could not have happened without that terrible thing happening first. So, and I think that's true for this party. This was a terrible thing. This was not a good thing, the division. But I think we can see some things come out of this that are going to be better, and that wouldn't have been able to happen if this had not happened first. So, thanks.
Thank you, Julie. Joshua.
Thank you. Clearly, the Copper State Fund is an unfortunate result of the crisis that we went through in the first half of this year. But we have to remember the coordinated campaign is going to be focused specifically on the 3 statewide electeds, maybe 4 if our treasurer candidate can afford to buy into it. And we have maybe 6 up to 7 districts where the ADLCC will be focusing its efforts. That leaves another 240 plus races from school board, city council, county, LD, and other statewide races that fall on the ADP to take responsibility for. And so over the next year, we need to be building that party infrastructure. Think about the metaphor. Is it easier to build a house? And by a house, I'm talking about the re-election of our statewide electeds on some swamp ground where you're just throwing the house on top? Or is it easier to do it with a strong foundation where you know that your house is going to be standing in a strong place? We need to be focusing on the next 14 months on building that party infrastructure. Imagine instead of trying to do get out the vote and persuasion to try to win a 10,000 seat victory, we instead close the registration gap, close the narrative gap, and get the number of people who have been who think that our party is just does not represent them. Take that from 28% of people approving of the Arizona Democratic Party north of 60%. Think about how much easier it will be to win in this state, including in places like Mojave County, if the average voter thinks about the Democratic Party the way they think about unions. Unions in this state have almost a 70% approval rating. We need to have that same, build that same level of trust with the voters. On a day-to-day strategy, I think it's clear they're going to be focusing on persuasion and GOTV. We need to be focusing on building the party infrastructure, data, organizing, registration, making sure that our messaging is out there. We're rebuilding the party brand. And so that when they, you have that car, to switch metaphors again, when they supercharge that car, they hit the gas pedal in August or September of next year. It's not a clunker that's broken down, but they have a car that's going to be ready to drive and drive fast. Our message is schools, waters, and jobs, buddy. We need to be out there fighting for the working and middle class, our union family. And I'll also say that I've got relationships with the 5 statewide officials going back to 2019. I hosted a fundraiser for Mark Kelly back in 2019 and have been bundling for him since, similar with Governor Hobbs. I campaigned side by side with now Senator Gallego. Secretary Fontes was a great mentor to me during the campaign, and Attorney General Mays hosted a fundraiser for me when I was Corporation Commission candidate. So I think we at least have those personal relationships. Thank you. Sorry for going long. First time.
All right. Building on actually what you all said, what programs, specific programs, would you put in place to increase Democratic voter registration for the 2026 elections, particularly looking at utilization of PCs, who I believe personally are not utilized very well by the party, and bringing in young voters and disaffected voters. So how would you work collaboratively, with the counties and the LDs to increase voter registration and specific programs? And we will start with Shawnte, followed by Joshua.
Great question. I'm gonna proud parent here. So my son is becoming a PC today. He's attending in Pinal County. We have a training that we ask our PCs to go through. And so for many years doing the advocacy work, my children always came with me, but they were like, why? And so I share that to say that our PCs are very valuable, as we know, but many PCs don't have the foundation. They don't know what they do, or what they're supposed to do. They don't know their importance. And so for me, it starts with education, not only asking people to be involved, but providing them with that foundation. So creating a very, which Pinal County already does, an ongoing training for PCs to help them with that. When people are armed, they feel more powerful and they're more vocal. People believe in people that they know. And that they trust. And so our PCs are very valuable, obviously, for the work that they do in our community, but they're the ones that are going to bring other people on board. They're the ones that will convince people of the importance of serving. And so with that, providing education, working with our county chairs, our LD chairs to see what they have in place, helping them enhance that. If they don't have it, then providing that and helping them grow that. From there, again, from door knocking, speaking to people who are disengaged. They don't feel like they are a part of the party. And so that outreach, that developing of relationships, again, working with our county and LD chairs, since they are already in those spaces, to help grow those relationships, to help people, well, invite people back to the table. For our youth, at the DNC, many of the meetings that I've been at, you hear people chanting, very angry, asking for a ceasefire. You hear people sharing their stories about losing their Medicare and their Medicaid. People don't feel heard. There's a lot of fear out there. Education, conversations help with that. So in short, creating opportunities for education, creating opportunities for people to get engaged, increasing our voter registration tables everywhere, not only just in busy malls and libraries and things, but also working with our community colleges, working with coalitions like the National Coalition of 100 Black Women and One Voice, One Vote, who have programs set up, and just letting people know the importance of their voice. I think that matters as well. From an ADP perspective, again, providing funding, providing education, helping our local leaders set those things up. And last but not least, delivering, listening. People want to be a part of someone or something that cares about them. And so if we address people's concerns, if we are trustworthy, if we are open and speak in a language and a tone that is welcoming, people will come back to the party and will increase that voter registration and engagement.
Okay, thank you, Joshua. And can you talk about specific programs that ADP would lead?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, we need to change the brand or the trust perception of this party. And so that means getting out at the local level and, running a social marketing campaign. I know it sounds kind of like dirty and winning hearts and minds, and like we're talking about something that, we did in the Middle East. But if we have policies, and we know, look at the no vote on 138, where we voted to keep tipped workers' wages where they were, while the Republicans tried to cut tipped workers' wages. That won in every single county and every single precinct, or the no vote won in every single precinct. The vote for 139 won in every precinct in the state. Yet at the same time, the Democratic Party is viewed with suspicion and a lot of distrust. And so it's going to be a lot easier to rebuild our voter registration if people trust that the Democratic Party is actually going to fight for them. So, I mean, the first and easy program is that we at the ADP need to fund an LD and county level effort to get inactive voters back onto the active voter rolls. We're talking about somewhere between 300 and 550,000 voters who already have a history of voting, who have already been registered, but have dropped off the rolls, largely because the Republicans have been very effective at pushing them out of the political process, convincing them that the two parties are the same, that there's no reason for them to vote at all. So we as Democrats need to credibly provide an alternative and to get people back. So you can have texting programs, you can have relational outreach. This is something where we need to be training the PCs directly on let's get you the data of the people in your network that are not registered to vote or who are inactive voters and get them on board. I don't know, let's get a quota, maybe not a quota, but at least like let's have some sort of prize for our top PC who's registering voters on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on an annual basis. You know, I think we should have an annual award at our Hall of Fame dinner for the person who registered the most voters in the previous cycle. Let's recognize that person and let's put them front and center and give them a big applause. But ultimately, if we cannot change the perception of the Democratic Party in rural and suburban areas, the majority of people are going to continue to be disengaged from the political process. And, you know, it's great that we had a 70% registered voter turnout, but we only had 57% of potential voters vote in the last cycle. And that's on us to close that gap. Did I answer your question, Holly?
You did.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, followed by Chanel.
Holly, could I ask you to repeat the question? I feel like we got a little.
Yeah, sure. What specific programs would you put in place to increase Democratic voter registration for the 2026 elections, including PCs, the use of PCs, and focusing on bringing back disaffected and young voters?
Okay. I think first and foremost, you've got to make it kind of fun, not drudgery and work. So, you know, having kind of low bar kind of things to get started with and providing a lot of materials. One of the things we did here was put voter registration QR codes on t-shirts and let people wear those and register people when they were out in public. And that was really effective. People would tend to wear them around their families and friends, and it would open up discussions. And so, you know, giving them tools like that is really important. Filling all the PC slots is really important. But I have talked to so many precinct committee people who don't understand. They're just like, all I know is I think I'm a precinct committee person. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what that really means. And so we need to empower them in a way that gets them excited to get out there. And I'm not going to say those efforts aren't made. And I will say it's vastly different in some areas. You know, there's some legislative districts and counties that really have a strong PC program and it shows. And then others are kind of lacking. But in general, we tend to follow that format of come sit in a room, we'll sit and talk at you for a while, then you can go home and you can figure the rest out. And here's a list of things to do. And I think we need to change that and make it a more immersive kind of thing with programs that, you know, encourage people to spend time in community and do things together, because that's where you get that interest. You know, where you can educate them on what's going on. It's so shocking right now because I know we all live, eat, and breathe, you know, politics daily here. But I see people that are like, well, I just don't pay much attention. I don't really know what's going on. What's ICE doing? You know, who's Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, you know, to us that's shocking, but it's out there. So we have to just have community where we can have those discussions. I'm a big fan, you know, meetings are important occasionally, but I'm a big fan of just social hours where people get together and talk, because that's where they really get the information that they're looking for. That's where all the tea gets spilled, you know? So that's where they really find things out. So I think there's a lot of ways to do that aren't necessarily terribly expensive. But showing up and then having, you know, members of the executive board, you know, the chair, different people coming and joining those social hours. Again, I'm not going to come talk to you at a meeting where you have to sit in a hard chair and listen to me. I'm just going to, you know, come drink some coffee and, you know, eat a donut and we're going to chit chat. And I think that's how people feel included. So that's what I would do.
Thank you, Julie. Charlene, followed by Kim.
Thank you, Holly. Increase voter registration and utilization of PCs. I am just a proponent of getting as many PCs as you can. And I'm telling you, with my conversations with LD leaders throughout, during this process of running for ADP chair, I have found out so many great ideas on how to do that. And we need to start sharing those ideas. Just one, let me tell you, the LD chair would, when she signed up a PC and they're like, I don't know, what does the PC do? She says, you know what? All I'm going to ask you to do is sign up for my newsletter. And she says they sign up as a PC, sign up for her newsletter, and they get her newsletter, and it's exciting and it's filled with things that are going on. And pretty soon they're showing up for the meeting, they're showing up for a social, and now they're an engaged PC. We have to be real careful how we bring them in. Here in Yuma County, if you tell a PC, a new PC, well, all you have to do is knock doors, and you're thinking 123 degrees and knocking doors. I don't think so. That's okay. I'll give you $10, but that's it. I don't want to be a PC. So our messaging has to be very, very precise and careful and welcoming. I'm going to tell you, voter registration, I love it. It's one of my most favorite things to do because you're building a relationship. When you register someone to vote, seriously, they're a friend for life. They're going to call you when they get their ballot and say, I got my ballot. How do I vote? How did you vote? What should I do? Where should I go? So let me tell you some of the things we did here in Yuma County. We did citizenship ceremonies. We actually got thrown out of the federal building because they said we couldn't be in there. So we went out on the front area, the patio, and they said, no, this is still federal. So we went out into the sidewalk and we literally registered hundreds of people. We did graduation ceremonies. It was a lot, it wasn't as tight then, but we would be right outside the gym where the kids were walking out, or we'd lay them in the room where they were getting ready to go out onto the ball field, and it was a voter registration form. And then we talked to them afterwards, and we get their parents to register to vote too. Those were highly successful. We're out at the college all the time registering people to vote. That's how you get the young Dems interested. So you have to be, just any place, you have to be engaged. And just remember, in rural areas, media is so inexpensive and readily available. You can get your message out through them. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Kim.
Okay. So right now, ADP is in the process of standing up some voter reg events to take place on some of our college campuses. And we are doing that in collaboration with the various Young Dems and Young Dem groups in both. We're starting out in Tucson and Phoenix. We've been told by the young people that what's required to captivate them for these events is ball caps, t-shirts, donuts, and pizza. So we don't have any ball caps right now, but we can definitely bring the donuts and the pizza. I take the note from the other folks who have talked about the training. Another way to use PCs, one of the former executive directors told me about a program from 2012 where they ran a statewide competition and offered a cash prize to the LD that registered the most voters in a certain period of time. And I thought that it would be fun to stand that up in conjunction with some training, either delivered through videos or through LDs and counties. So in addition to that, ADP has a role to play because with a 370,000 or so gap between registered Democrats and registered Republicans, we may not be able to move the needle too much just with the volunteers we have, even as we focus on growing our ranks. So we can use data to determine by what percentage can we possibly close the registration gap through a partisan voter registration effort that may give us lift with our statewide races and all of our races up and down the ballot in 26. And I do think that there's a number, something south of 10% for sure, that we may be able to afford and raise the money for. And there are, in fact, donors who are very interested in helping us close that gap if we can demonstrate that we have a good program in place, that we're moving people, we're motivating people, and that we're ready to really make some progress and move the needle. Thanks.
Thank you. Chanel.
Regarding our PCs, I think that we need to clearly define their role. So there needs to be a clearly defined role of PCs so that everyone can understand what their role is. Number two, we also need to be able to, again, it's going to be challenging to bring people in back to the Democratic Party without recommitting to our values and everyone owning those values under the Democratic Party banner. In addition to that, it's also going to be extremely helpful to have a platform where we actually have something to go out and sell to people. Regarding programs, we need to be going to these doors of the voters who are Democrats who did not vote last election cycle. We need to survey them and do some deep canvassing to really understand what is it that they want to see and how the issues impact them and how does that align with the Arizona Democratic Party. In addition to that, we need to consider thinking about training. We have to be able to train. There should be a PC training every year. Every month. There need to be a PC training every month and some role playing so that we can have well-trained PCs. We need to be able to identify where are the people. We can have a growing Google document to ask where are these events happening and how can we be able to register voters. We need to coalition build and partner. We can coalition build and partner with our Young Dems, with our Arizona Student Association, and other democracy groups that have not been affiliated with the Arizona Democratic Party, but still shares our values. When we are out in the public, another way to fully engage those who may not be engaged and to register them to vote is to ask them, do you know what legislative district you live in? And opposed to you pulling out your phone, empower them with the link, where's my district? People's eyes really begin to open once they realize who is representing them, and it makes them want to get involved even more deeply. We need to be able to identify, of course, and build up more PCs, but people need to be trained. They need to feel valued and not used as a transaction. We need to ensure that they are well trained, and we really need to invest in outreach. And some of that is going to take money, but some of that's also going to take people power, people who are willing to go out to these doors and out to these public places and spaces to be able to capture feedback and utilize that raw data from the people to help us maneuver in how we are going to be able to make our decisions. But there are a number of inactive voters. I want to utilize democracy dialogues by inviting people into the party so that they can understand how we function and also what we deeply care about to help build a lasting relationship and engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the ends of my prepared questions. I've noticed in the chat, so we're going to go to the audience now. I've noticed in the chat people are talking about our messaging and what our messaging should be. So why don't we use that question? And perhaps you can say, what would you plan? How do you plan to address messaging? And what do you think are the 3 highest priorities to include in the messaging? And that would be 2 minutes.
Holly,
And
can I recommend that we make this a lightning round and everyone gets 1 minute because they only have a bumper sticker for a successful message. But you
Okay.
get to decide, you're the moderator, 1 or 2 minutes, you tell me.
1 minute, I like that. And we're going to start with you, Chanel.
I'm so excited to talk about messaging, y'all. I really feel like this is something that we need to discuss together. I have been able to identify people in the community who are not even affiliated with the Democratic Party, who got some solid messaging. We have a young lady here who in the state of Arizona who has been selling t-shirts. She said, y'all don't believe in democracy, but you believe in dictatorship. We need to bring people like that who don't even know that they are carrying and waving the Democratic Party banner. In addition to that, at our meeting, at our special meeting that I will call in the first 50 days, I want us to talk about that. When we talk about our messaging, when we talk about our doubling down on our commitment to our values and who we are. In addition to that, I want us to be able to rank what are some of those issues. Some of those first issues I see is voting rights and democracy. It is our economy, it's economic justice and public education. But again, this is something that all Democrats need to discuss to come out with a solution. Thank you.
I'm going to just do this based on how I see the candidates on my screen. So Charlene, you're next.
Thank you so much. I love the overall arching message of save our democracy. And this is, I was at a session and heard that's very important, and it's probably, it trends very well. But we have to tailor our message to the people, to our audience. Know your audience. If you come to a rural community and you say, we want you to join us, save our democracy, on deaf ears. But if you tell them, if you talk to them about their area, what is it? Is it water? Is it education? Is it access to public education, higher education? Is it about Social Security? Are you in an area that maybe people that are more inclined to have Social Security? Tailor your message by your audience. Know your audience every single time you come out into our rural areas. It is so important. That's how you grab our interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Shawnte. You're muted. Okay.
Thank you. I think the messaging is simple. It's accountability, it's unity, it's coming together. So one, letting people know, that was quick, letting people know that we are one party and that our united voices will move us forward.
All right, Julie.
I think that these are not normal times, so our message needs to be very strong. We need to be strong on what we're against. We're against dictatorship, we're against fascism, and we need to be very strong on what we stand for. That we stand for voting rights, that we stand for bodily autonomy, that we stand against genocide, but that we also stand against terrorism. That we can't be in between on any of this right now. We need to really be out front and have a strong message that we support free education and access to medical care and safe food, and really just not. We can't be. My big thing about messaging is it's got to be strong. We got to come out and be, we're new, we're clean, we know what we're doing, and you're going to join us, and we're going to fix this. That's my message.
All right, Kim.
Thanks. We need to do some research and a lot of listening. We lost different groups of voters for different reasons. So even in the 18 to 24-year-olds, most of the young women went for Harris. A lot of the young women went for Trump. If we want to get them back, we can't reach them in the same way. We would have to have a strategy that allows us to connect with different sections of the population based on where they are and what they need to hear in order to be inspired to want to come back. If we lost people in the economy, it might be that we need to use radio, Spanish radio. If we lost people for reproductive rights and things like that, we need to get to them online through social media. It's going to take some research and some nuance to put together a multi-tiered strategy.
Okay, thank you, Joshua.
Every time that Bill Clinton got a speech from one of his Harvard-educated people, he would go through with red lines and cross out every 50-cent word. We have clearly failed to connect with people. Our ideas are popular, our policies are popular, but on an identity level, we are failing as a party, and we need to recognize that. We cannot say, how we campaigned in 1998 or 2008 or 2018 or even 2024 is going to work. we are fighting right now for the soul of our country. And we need to show people that we can provide not just, oh, we're the milquetoast alternative. We're the like inoffensive alternative. We need to have a positive vision for what it means to be Democrats. My idea is, water, schools, and jobs. I'm open to hearing from other ideas, but we need to be getting back to the nuts and bolts, fighting for the basic civil rights of every single person in this country. And
Thank
getting
you.
out a regular talking points memo. I mean, the Republicans do it. Why do people be like, well, what's the messaging this week? Let's just send it out from the ADP.
I'm going to do another lightning round question. Do you feel the chair should be compensated and why? And we're going to start with Shawnte, sorry.
Yes, I do feel that the chair should be compensated because of the level of effort that goes into the job itself. Fair rights, fair pay for the work that is delivered. So yes, it is a lot of work. It is done out of passion and love, but we do, as a chair, have to be compensated. You have to be able to live. And if there is no compensation, then the chair then will have to possibly split their efforts because they'll have to find a means to survive. So with that, yes, I do feel that the chair should be compensated.
Charlene.
Yes, ma'am, I do believe the chair should be compensated. Otherwise, we will just see only the wealthy that will be able to serve as chair. I mean, if we want someone that's out there on a daily basis, 40 plus hours a week, I think that chair needs to be compensated. It's more professional. Thank you.
Okay, Chanel.
Absolutely, the chair needs to be compensated. It's a full-time job. It's full-time work, and it's in alignment with democratic values. Again, we can't just make this position only available to the independently wealthy. When we say that we want working families and we represent the working class, we need to adhere to that. When we don't, it signals to donors that there's instability. It also shows that there's a misalignment of democratic values. So it's very important that we do what we say and empower our chairs to go out there and to be the voice, the face, the fundraiser, and the messenger for the Arizona Democratic Party.
All right. Kim.
Yes, we need to get ourselves situated in such a way that we have the support from the bylaws, we have the money budgeted, and we need to make space for the chair to get paid.
Joshua?
100%. Maybe this is just the Midwestern roots in me, but I look to the Wisconsin Party and the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party. They run a fully professional ship that's modeled on the unions. If we are going to have leadership that is fighting for the working and middle class in the state, we need to treat that position with the respect it deserves and make sure that people not only are compensated. My vision is that they are an employee by fact of the party, just like the way that Minnesota and Wisconsin does it, that they have to live under the same benefits that they negotiate for our union employees. They shouldn't get some special treatment because they're chaired. Let's not treat them like an independent contractor. Let's treat them like an employee. And you, the state committee members, you're the boss. And so I definitely think that this needs to be treated with, fair wage for fair work. Thank you.
All right, and Julie.
Yeah, like everybody else, I think that if you don't pay the chair, you either get someone that's distracted with another job half the time, or you're only opening it up to independently wealthy or retired people. So yeah, if we're going to live our values, we need to pay the chair. And I agree, the chair should be paid as an employee. That also gives, I think, some more power to the board to be in oversight. When you approach it as I'm an employee, the board is my boss, it gives you a little more guidance there. So I think that's helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions in the chat that we haven't really asked. So I think we'll just move to closing statements and give people back a little bit of time. The closing statements will be 2 minutes each. and should include your 30-second elevator pitch, why we should support ADP in 2026. But you have 2 minutes for your closing statement. And we're going to start with Chanel.
Hello again, everyone. Again, my name is Chanel Powe, strategist, organizer, forever organizer, and fundraiser. If you elect me as chair, I will make sure that we prioritize rebuilding our relationships with our donors, and building new relationships. I also want to make sure that we are able to unite the party, where we are able to have some courageous conversations about issues that have been plaguing our party before 2026, so we don't have to continually revisit these conversations. I also want to be able to expand voter outreach. If elected, I want to be sure to expand the board to include a young Democrat. We just can't talk about including young people. We have to see them as leaders. I will also look to our LD chairs to begin mentoring young people so that we are building a bench of leaders. If elected to be Arizona Democratic Party chair, I want to make sure that our members feel empowered in their roles, and I want to be able to grow our party. We are not reflecting our base in the state of Arizona. So I believe we can reach our full potential by being inclusive, engaging. I know sometimes we can feel a little bit territorial, but we have to be welcoming, and we need to be able to create a home where all Democrats feel like they belong. In terms of providing training opportunities, there are so many organizations that come in our state that don't even include the Arizona Democratic Party. They're literally doing the recruiting for us. We need to be that conduit to help bridge the gap in those relationships so that we are able to succeed as a party. If you elect me as chair to the Arizona Democratic Party, I will help raise our profile. It's something that I already do as a sought after speaker, activist, and comrade here in the state of Arizona. I hope to earn your vote on September 13th as ADP chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Chanel. Joshua, followed by Shawnte.
Thank you very much. I want to thank everyone who's taken time out on a Saturday morning to hear from a bunch of political nerds running to take a leadership position. I think that really shows your commitment to not just this party, but to the Republic. You know, I am running because I believe we need a Democratic Party that is professional, that we have a no drama HQ that is fully staffed, that carries out the core duties of the party, whether that's data, organizing, fundraising, messaging, but at the same time, recognizing that 2025 is not a normal time. And we need a Democratic Party that is going to go out in all 15 counties, all 30 LDs, try to get to every single precinct in this state and fight for every single voter, because this is not a normal time in American history. And we need to recognize that as a party and rise to the occasion. This is not time for stability. Like, yeah, you need stability in the party, but you can't treat this as business as usual. And so with that, I plan to bring 25 years of professionalism from my time as a Foreign Service officer, from my time being involved in Democratic politics over the last 5 years, and take that and fight for the heart and soul of every single person in this state and convince them that not only are the Republicans people that want to hurt them, but the Democrats together, we can build something better, and that the people of this state deserve better, and together under Democratic leadership, we can achieve that. Thank you very much. I hope to earn your vote on September 13th. Have a good rest of your day, y'all.
Thanks, Joshua. Shawnte.
Thank you, everyone, for the space.
Excuse me, followed by Julie. I'm sorry, Shawnte. Go ahead.
It's okay. I personally am a storyteller, so I'm going to start with that. I grew up in a very spiritual household. Well, serving the community was daily life for us. So whether it was knocking doors or feeding people on the reservations or traveling abroad to help people build their voice. It was very important. I realized that everyone wants to matter, everyone wants to belong, and everyone has a story. They want to matter. And so that has shaped my leadership. As a mother who knows what it means to fight for our next generation, I'm a business owner who understands stewardship and stability. I'm a proud union member who has seen the power of coalitions. I'm also a school board member and a member of various communities. I know that we can't assume people's story because everyone has a story. And that's one of the greatest gifts I will say I've gotten from running for this office. People are very willing to reach out and tell you and give you feedback, but also share with you their vision for what the party should be. And so it was reminded me that learning and growing is eternal, which is what our party needs to do. We can't grow, we can't be better if we don't listen, if we don't remember that we are all one and that we all have that same goal. And so bringing about practical leadership, because I know how to design programming that connects and builds people and capacity. I know how to raise money from grassroots donors to coalition partners. So we're not running from cycle to cycle, figuring out how we're going to do this program or how we're going to do that. And I know how to build relationships. Our party, we are about relationships, relationships with the statewide, relationships with the community members, relationships with the unions, relationships with people in general. Our party can no longer live in fear. We can no longer go high when they go low. We have to be a voice for our people. We have to speak out, but we also have to humanize our message. We have to be approachable. We have to include these actions. Those are the things that are going to bring people back to the party. Those are the things that are going to get people engaged. And with that, my vision is very simple. And I invite you to please vote for me on September the 13th to be your Arizona State Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, followed by Kim.
Hi. Thank you for taking your time this morning. I know it's a lot to give up a Saturday morning. These are not normal times though. And so it was important that all of you were here and I appreciate that. I don't know if everyone got a chance to see the news this morning, but Donald Trump has essentially declared war on Chicago. And it's horrifying. My elevator pitch is that we're going to be the new Arizona Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party is the strongest and largest army we have right now. We cannot abandon that army. We have to build it up. We have to work together, and we have to show up in force. And I've actually said that to a few people that have taken that to heart. That, you know, they asked me why even bother? Why are you running for chair? And I said, because it's the strongest army we have, and we're going to have to fight with everything we have to get through this. This isn't just about state elections. This isn't just about local participation. This is about our actual survival as a democracy, and we need to take it seriously. I will say that I'm very pleased with the slate of candidates that I'm running with, because, you know, I think everyone here does take this very seriously and will give it 150% effort to make sure that we do succeed. So that's, you know, my closing statement, my elevator pitch all wrapped into one. We have to show up, we have to fight, and we have to win. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Kim?
Thank you. Okay. So at its core, I think the Arizona Democratic Party is a multi-million-dollar business with operations, union staff, donor relationships, campaign side relationships, budgeting, strategy, financials, compliance, and legal requirements. Throughout this interim period, I've really gotten a chance to see that. And so what ADP can do as an overarching entity on top of the state of Arizona is to become much more powerful, much more robust, to encourage people to join our ranks. I've seen and heard about operations in other states where they were able to double and triple their ranks in not too much time at all. But ultimately, I've been through a leadership transition twice now, once at the beginning of the year, because I worked very closely with former leadership for close to 3.5 months. And then again, during this interim period as acting chair. Every time a new leader steps in, we lose a couple of months, 2 or 3 months. What I offer is the opportunity for us to maintain and grow momentum and to not lose more time, because our primary is less than a year away. I have developed and earned the trust of the staff members and the statewide electeds. I meet with them every week. I've had the good fortune to have good working relationships with a number of the board members, the executive committee, the county chairs, a lot of LD leadership. And I really appreciate and rely on those relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim and Charlene.
Okay, this is really an elevator speech. And if you know anything about me, I love to talk to people in elevators. Hi, I'm the chair of the Arizona Democratic Party, and my mission is simple: to fight for opportunity, fairness, and freedom for every American. Democrats believe in building an economy that works for working families from the middle out, in the words of the last great president, Joe Biden, protecting our democracy and ensuring that healthcare, education, and clean drinking water are rights, not privileges. We are organizing in every community, urban, rural, tribal, empowering new leaders and working to deliver real results that improve people's lives. Together, we can build a stronger, fairer future for all. That's my elevator speech, and we got to win it in November, but we can't do that. We can't start doing that until you elect me your next chair on September 13th. I really appreciate your vote. I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for putting this forum together.
Thank you. You know, I thought this was going to be in live discussion, and it certainly was. And I thought it would make my life easier when I have to vote next week, but it hasn't. It made it more difficult because you are fabulous candidates, and we are so fortunate to have you. And thank you all for running. Thank you all for being here today, and look forward to seeing you all next week and at the dinner. Hope everybody has got their tickets for the dinner. It's really important that we raise the money for the party. And thank you once again. I see that people are putting their phone numbers in the chat, so we can leave the chat open for just a minute or two. And
Holly, can I jump
Yes.
in real quick? I just want to say something. And Kim, I'm not sure if you've seen the email I've sent yet because I didn't get a reply. But we did, and this is going to make your choice even harder. I'm so sorry. But all of the candidates that are currently in the race, and Kim, I'm just going to assume that you can tell me how you feel about it, are signing a pledge that we will support whoever the winner is. That, you know, we are all committed to putting our efforts behind making sure that success happens. So I just wanted to say that I think this is a great group of people, awesome candidates. And yeah, I don't envy you guys making the choice. It's going to be difficult.
But you know, I hope you will all stay involved. I know some of you are elected right now as party leaders, and it is a team. You've all said that. We in order to win, we have to bond together, and we have to be a team, and we have to fight for our victory. So thank you all. Have a great Saturday.
Thank you. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you all.
I'm gonna fight for you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.